In this video, I'm going to explain to you the MartialBody system, the methodology behind the system of MartialBody training. It's very easy for us to look at training methods and techniques and think, okay, I've done that technique before, and sort of disregard them because we've done them previously. What we want to do with MartialBody is look at it as a systematic approach to developing what I call the MartialBody. And that is developing towards the 6 attributes, making them strong enough that they combine together to create this whole capacity that we have as a martial artist. So when we're looking at the MartialBody system, it's important that we look at the system as a whole. What is it that is what are we trying to do when we're creating the HeavyBody, for instance? And looking at the individual techniques of, say, the foundations or the intermediate level, and saying, okay, well, how does this technique move us towards the goal of that protocol, the HeavyBody protocol? And then, at a larger scale, how does HeavyBody then help us with the next body, the StableBody? Okay, so when we're looking at the MartialBody system, we need to look at it as a layering of process to create competency. And each of the steps in the process is important. The design of the system is the key thing here. It's not the individual techniques. As I've mentioned previously, those individual techniques may be common to many different systems, but it's the way in which they're combined to produce specific goals and qualities that differentiates the MartialBody system. So let's look at the system. Let's look at each of the attributes and why they are placed where they are in the hierarchy. Okay, so the system works from heavy body down to fluid body, and there are 6 bodies in the system. Okay, all of the bodies combine together to create the MartialBody. All right, that's the process, that's the theory behind it. So the heavy body is primarily concerned with our ability to utilize our body mass. Okay, so the way that I like to sort of explain this is, if you imagine picking up someone who is unconscious off the floor, completely relaxed and released, they're very heavy. They feel much heavier than they do if they're conscious and awake and somewhat tense. That is a really good manifestation of the heavy body concept. And so heavy body is very closely related to releasing tension. What we want to do is be able to release tension, both conscious tension, tension that we are aware of, and unconscious tension, tension that we are not yet aware of but is present in the body, so that we can utilize our body mass effectively. And that utilization of body mass is a consciously controlled and purposeful control of the body mass. It is not simply just flopping around, okay? So the first body is a powerful system in and of itself. Heavy body is extremely powerful when we're using it. You can use it to root, you can use it to strike with heaviness, you can use it in many different ways. But it's the first step because it deals with the tension in our body and letting go of that tension, okay? So in essence, this is the groundwork that we need to do to be able to align ourselves and do all the things that we're going to do after that. If we're holding tension, both conscious and unconscious, everything that precedes the heavy body will become influenced by that tension. And so we have to get rid of it early, deal with it to the best degree that we can before we move on to the next part of the system. And the next part of the system is what we call the stable body, okay? And this deals with body harmony, harmonizing the alignments of the body, and as importantly, removing misalignment. So the heavy body deals with removing excess tension and unwanted tension. The stable body deals with removing misalignment and creating harmony. And so the aim in the stable body is to make sure that our posture is good, okay? Now that doesn't mean that we have to be bolt upright, straight back, chin tucked in, all of the sort of things that we deal with in the foundations. We can be in a fighting stance, in a certain position with our head tucked down and everything, but our joints are working in harmony with one another. Our alignments are such that we can maximize our strength and our force without having to use excessive tension in individual muscle groups because of misalignment. And so this stable body is reliant on the release of tension because we have to be able to put ourselves in position, okay? And once we've put ourselves in position, we align our skeleton in a way that it works in harmony together. We burn in that position and those sort of habits of harmony into our neurology, and that we use various methods to do that. And this is what we call building on the proprioceptive sense, the sense of positioning in relation to ourselves and our environment, okay? So that's the stable body, the harmonization of the body alignments. Next we come to the connected body, okay? This is one that loads of people really enjoy because it's quite a clear one that you can use. However, it really does depend on the stable and heavy. Connected body is the building of whole body connected power. Now what I mean by that is that the concept of one part moves, all parts move, okay? So if I'm moving my arm, as I move my arm, my whole body is acting to help me move my arm. It is not simply that my arm is moving away from my body and everything else is static. Now to do that, what we train are very long extended postures which stretch our connective tissues, our fascia, our ligaments, our tendons, the links between muscle groups, and also the muscles themselves. And we stretch them in such a way that we can then add a tautness into the system that does a couple of different things. It motivates the body to build tissue, to build connection so that this tissue can be strengthened. And it also builds the neurological pathways of that tissue. It combines them in our nervous system and makes us use them naturally as a whole chain or line. This process is one of building. So you'll notice that the first two, we're basically removing things. We're removing unwanted tension and we're removing misalignment. Now we're actually building something. We're building up this sense of connection and the physical connections in the body. Eventually, we work on the body in such a way that everything is connected together, from the fingertips to the toes and the top of the head to the base of the body. Everything connects together, and no matter what you're doing, you'll feel like the whole body is always involved in that motion. Now, this is a process that relies on release and stability. We want the release so that we can stretch effectively without tensing our muscles. And we want the stable body harmony so that we're not misaligned as we're building tissue. If we're hunched over like this and we're doing our work, we're going to build tissue in all the wrong places, and we're going to build neurological connection in all the wrong places. So what we want to do is have that heavy and stable frame, and then we move into the connected process of developing our whole body connected power. Now, leading on from this, we work into the elastic body. Now, the elastic body works on the same systems and locations as the connected body. We're working on the same tissue. However, this time we're adding springiness to that tissue. We're trying to stretch and release like elastic. And that creates a whole body springiness that gives us agility and lightness. Now, this is an area of martial body that is quite closely linked to sports science, things like the stretch shortening cycle, the ground reaction rebounding, and things like that. And what we're aiming to do with this is create the ability to be blisteringly fast in an instant. That's the idea with the elastic body. So the elastic body deals with developing the same tissues that we worked on in the connected body. So we need the connected body prior so that we can feel those tissues and feel their development. And then we start to spring them and stretch them and bounce off them so that they become elastic and more stretchy and more sort of springy, okay? And this gives us those attributes of agility and speed. Now, after these developmental positions, the bodies, connected and elastic, we go into the movement phase of martial body training. And the first of those is the spiral body. Now, the spiral body relies on everything that came before. It relies on the softness of the tissue. It relies on the alignment of the joints. It relies on the connection of the whole body together. And it relies on the ability to be springy and agile. And what we aim to do is move with ever-increasing complexity all of that structure that we've just built. So we've created this interesting structure, and now we're going to move it around in space in complex ways. And the spiral body works on a progressive movement complexity from linear force or linear direction to circling direction to spiraling direction. And this is what we call pairing in the MartialBody system. It is a complex building of attributes, building of directions, so that eventually we're moving with high levels of complexity that is difficult for opponents or partners to follow, and gives us the ability to avoid force on force and produce high volumes of force ourselves. So this is a movement process that we're going through in the spiral body. Now finally we come to the fluid body. Now this is the combination of everything that came before to create naturalness and the ability to employ all of these attributes simultaneously as required by the moment. The fluidity of mind required to just be natural and utilize all of the attributes of the martial body. So the fluid body is primarily concerned with our ability to adapt and change to conditions and the ability for the mind to enact freedom in the rest of the body. It's a very difficult part of the training because it doesn't deal with simple physical attributes. It deals with our mind's ability to create flow and fluidity in the given situations that it finds itself. And that's why it comes last. It's the unleashing of the martial body. Okay? So this is the process through from heavy to fluid. Now, as you can see, there's a logical progression here. And as I mentioned in the introduction, it may well be that you've seen techniques from every single one of these sections, and you've trained them in some traditional art, or you've trained them in your PT sessions with your gym instructor. The differentiation of martial body is the process by which we're aiming to produce the attributes. So even within the individual protocols themselves, the HeavyBody protocol, although there are techniques that may be familiar, it's the combination of those techniques intelligently to produce the habit of heaviness that differentiates the martial body system. So we are trying to make a very close examination and zoom in on each of these attributes to then develop a complete capability of the martial body. Now, the martial body system is also cyclical. So although we travel from heavy down to fluid, what we then do is return back to heavy body and go through another cycle of training. The idea here is that as we progress through the bodies and our training methodology, we may get to connected body and elastic body and start to build some tension because of the nature of the development that those areas of the martial body system produce. And that tension may be then drawn into our movement and may be a sticking point for our naturalness. So then we can go back and start releasing again, even deeper this time, making the release much more consciously controlled and deeper. And then we work our way down into stable, connected, elastic, etc. And we continue to do those loops of deeper and deeper understanding and deeper skill. So these loops may take over 18 months to get through from heavy to fluid. But we are then able to run back to heavy and start that process again with deeper understanding. This is the way in which the martial body system is designed to work. It is not a classical progression through a syllabus that we may see in some traditional training methods, where you start here and then you progress and you get to some imaginary endpoint. In fact, it's just a process, a systematic process that circles back on itself, and you make your body skill deeper and deeper with every cycle. So this is an explanation of the MartialBody system itself and what differentiates it. It is the systematic working towards specific attributes that makes the MartialBody system what it is. It is not necessarily the individual techniques or their origins or anything like that. It's not even me that makes the system what it is, and people tend to focus on who made it, where did it come from, all of those things. What we're looking at is a systematic and logical way to produce the attributes that combine to make the MartialBody. So I hope that explains the MartialBody process, and I will see you in the next video.